Hello, Matt Corner.
Good morning.
How are you this fine day?
I am wonderful. You?
Good. Same. It's just the same. There's our clerk and just Mr. Bartleman, Mr. Jones, Mr. Doolittle, and got Ham on there just yet. There's and we need Mr. Parker.
I don't know that I ever want to go back to regular meetings.
Pretty handy.
Concur.
Well, Steve, this is not being live streamed or anything, right? You're muted. There you go.
Yes, I started live streaming right at 10 o'clock.
Okay. So we are live streaming.
We are.
Okay.
Thank you. Steve, is there a handout I'm supposed to already have?
No.
Okay. And today's topics are coroner and jailer.
Yes. But while we're saying this, I'm going to send out the coroner's draft budget. I just sent out the coroner budget.
Are you sending it to my PSP?
I can.
But it just,
Yeah, I did. I sent it to your BSG.
that's the one connected to my printer, so I can print it faster.
Judge, I did speak a few minutes ago to Commissioner Parker, and he was trying to connect. So I know he's coming.
Okay.
Will we have a similar document with the jailer?
Check your email right now.
Okay. Thank you. I got it.
I'm going to shut your door first, so I don't hear you.
Hear me? Hello?
Is that Commissioner Parker? No.
Next, you go.
I can't hear anybody. I know.
Okay.
I don't know what to do.
I'll come
And
down.
the sound's all the way up.
See, last time it was on.
Judge, Commissioner Parker texted a couple minutes ago and said he'd be 5 minutes late.
No answer, sir, but I left a message.
Hey, Pam,
Hey, Jim. Hey, are you zooming in this morning for the budget workshop at 10? Oh, okay. Sir, he's trying to get in. He's being told the host will let him in soon. I'll run down there and make sure Steve knows. He's trying. Okay, Jeff. I'm gonna run down.
hey, can I get somebody to email me the March financial statement? I know I printed it and I had it. I just can't find it. Pam still around or is she off?
She's assisting Julie at the moment.
I can't remember.
Steve, Vicky tells me that Jeff says he's trying to get in. It says host will let you in soon. Something like that.
Yeah.
There he is.
Okay.
There you go. All right, thanks.
Here it's okay, Commissioner Parker.
I'm here.
Well, looks like we're, Pam is with Julie. So that's, yeah, there they are. All right. Looks like we're good to go then. So we had some preliminary discussion with Coroner Ms. Melton yesterday, just kind of see where we are. So this was the commissioners were not part of that. So this is bringing everybody together, get the questions asked and answered and that sort of thing. It looks like it's pretty straightforward from our discussions yesterday, but maybe everything worked out. You want to take it and run with it, Steve?
Sure. Can you all see this
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
spreadsheet on the screen? So as we move into the appropriation side of the budget, of course, last week we talked about revenue, and we have been instructing the departments to again present us with something that is austere and completely flat from last year. So we are making very minimal changes to things, just only as little items across the year have come up, and we will point those out to you as we go through the spending side of the budget. The coroner's office, obviously, unlike a lot of the bigger departments, doesn't have too many spending lines. It's primarily paying for the staff, taking care of the vehicles, a little bit of training, a little bit of equipment, and then then the single biggest thing after that is transportation for autopsies. One thing that you will wonder is where do we do the indigent burials for reasons I'm not completely sure why it's that way, but it's not in this part of the budget. It shows up in another part of the budget, and there's actually another line item that has to do with those burials. So we are presenting a budget in line with our instructions that it be completely flat as compared to the current year we're in.
Steve, do we need to move the indigent burials into this section just to continuity, or are we okay with the way it is?
I think it's okay as it is. I just wanted to point that out that we do, we have a $15,000 line item in another part of the budget that we have for indigent burials. Another thing, that we should remind you guys of at least annually is that you will, when you look at your financials, you'll always see our unclaimed fund, and I think always that number has to do with some unclaimed funds that have come into the possession of the coroner, that we hold those funds for a year, and then we will extend it for that burial. We typically we have a negotiated rate that is far below market to take care of indigents, but if we come into a little bit of possession or resources from the deceased, then we will after a year reimburse the appropriate funeral home a closer to retail number for that burial, but that takes a year for that to wash out. So we always have a few $1,000s coming back into the budget that goes to fund the indigents. I don't really have anything else to point out about this particular budget.
Let me ask a question to the coroner. What is the virus situation and the deaths in the county? Does that have any impact on your office and expenses?
Not directly, no. We actually already had a surplus of supplies So that was handy when it came time to stock up on PPEs. Actually, we had enough that the state had given us over the years that we were able to distribute some of those to other places. So actually, no, we've done real well with this budget. We made some pretty substantial adjustments to it last year, if you recall, and it's worked really well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Adam Corner, you're happy with this budget?
I am, yes. We talked yesterday, and I'm not sure what Steve just showed. The bottom line was going to stay the same, but we are anticipating a few vehicle issues and also some new office equipment that we may need. So we switched a fairly small amount, like $500 between funds. But yet with the bottom line staying the exact same. And I think Pam probably has that. But it was borrowing money basically from uniforms and from conferences and transferring that to vehicle maintenance and new equipment. Those were just unanticipated things that I know we're going to need for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, those changes were made, Amanda, so they should be seeing that on this budget. I don't know if everybody sees what I see, but Steve, I can't see that 2021 budget budget column, because that's where people's boxes are. Can you scoot it over so I want to make sure they can see those final numbers.
That help?
Yeah. So now they can see the final number there.
Right. Yes, that's it.
So anybody have any comments, questions? I hear a voice in the background. Can't make it out. I don't know. There's some voice in the background from somebody.
I don't know if it's.
No questions, comments?
I don't have any questions.
Hey, Steve. Steve,
Yes.
will you, I know we've talked about it before and all this stuff come about, but like on the corner and the some of these other things that are not like police officers, can we check into getting the fuel cards and what it would save us down from the place downtown here on Park Avenue? I know we were buying, I do it through my business, we were buying gas for 56, 57 cents a gallon, which doesn't count the taxes, but I understand police cars sometimes are out and can't fuel down there, but if like the corners and maybe the parks department or some of them that are always around, they could fuel down there. Even saves us 10 or 20% over 3 or 4 different things. That would that amount to a little bit of money anyway.
What the commissioner is pointing out is we fuel our entire fleet with a fleet card service that allows us to purchase fuel at most of the commercial places across the county and even the state. And the commissioner is requesting we look into looking at a Midwest terminal as another option, particularly for those that are around the courthouse every day as a fueling place, to see if we can save a few dollars in gas by going there. I haven't looked into that yet, but thank you for reminding me. We will do that.
What did you say, 56 or 57 cents a gallon? What, you mean you save?
Yeah, it was in the mid 50s. Now that you got to add the tax on top of that, but and I'm not sure how much tax is, but it generally will save you 15, 20 cents a gallon overall of what you're regularly paying at a pump elsewhere. And I don't know if those fuel cards we use, do they discount it, or is it just a service that card works pretty much anywhere, Steve?
No, it is. It works off of, and Pam, jump in here. We buy gas based on a margin. We don't pay the advertised price at the pump. We pay it's bid on number of cents above a regularly published wholesale gas price.
And it may be the same. You just have to check into it. It may not save us money, but if it would, every little bit helps.
Yeah, Steve is correct. That's how it works. And also on the current account that we have, it is the state did the bidding for us. So we already get the rate that the state has contracted with. So that's, I assume, the lowest rate with that company we could get.
Well, then I guess we check with the ones here locally and see what the lowest rate we get with them. I know the city uses it, so I'm sure they could get on state contract too. So it may save us a little bit of money.
Okay. What about anything? Any other questions, comments on the budget? Are we done with the corners budget? Everybody good?
We're good.
All right.
She's good, so we're good.
Okay.
I'm good.
I don't know, historically, it seems like we ought to take 3 or 4 more meetings on this topic, but I digress.
Just let me know when. All right. Hey,
All right,
I want to
thank
thank you all. Stay safe. See ya.
Thank you.
See you, Amanda.
All right, are we all ready to move on to the jail budget?
Yes, sir.
David, before we jump into the details of this, I'm sure the commission is interested in hearing about what the current population numbers are and the other things that the COVID crisis, how it's affecting the jail.
As of today, our population is 353, and our state population is 223 with 89 county inmates and 21 federal inmates.
What about Livingston?
And sorry, as far as the COVID goes, so far it has not gotten inside of our facility. We've done very well keeping it out.
Do we have any Livingston County inmates?
We do, just, I think it's 7.
And how many McCracken local inmates?
89.
Will you humor me, David? And so I know the state is $31 and
31.34.
all right. The federal is
45.
and Livingston County is
26.
all right.
$26 even.
And that's per day.
Correct. Now Livingston and the feds, they cover their own medical. Well, the feds cover their medical outside of this facility, so, which is the expensive stuff.
Right.
What impact is that having on your expenses, David? The reduction?
Medical has gone down significantly, as well as the food. So all of our expenses are going down, in proportion to the number of inmates that are here. As far as paying inmates and relative to our county inmates, we're sitting pretty good. If we maintain this all the time. However, when this is over, I expect that our population will go back up to previous numbers.
What was the population before this started, say March 15th? Somewhere around there. What was it? Roughly
About 580, roughly 580.
580.
Commissioner Bartleman, in August of 2019, just for perspective, we had 287 county inmates.
Right.
Are we ready to go on and look at the appropriation side that I've emailed out?
So,
All right, can everyone see that spreadsheet?
yes.
Well, this will be one of the more complicated budgets you look at. It has lots of line items, spends the most amount of money, and if the way we lay these out are how all the departments lay out. Some are just bigger, some are smaller. So we present first all the personnel related costs as they relate to salary and overtime and incentive pay, and that are these collection of account numbers over here. Of course, 03, everything 03 is jail in our budget. The second biggest chunk are the operating expenses, and then we get into asset related stuff like equipment and furniture. And then the last are fringe benefits and a few of the things that we do at the bottom. We refer to it as administrative costs, and then the total presented down at the end. Again, as with every department, we are instructing them to present things that are completely flat as possible. The only change that we have figured into the budget at this point has to do with up here in the salary line items, an increase of 2.3% for COLA. So and ignore that if we're doing a 2.3% increase for COLA, why are we saying salaries are going down? It was because in this current year budget right here, we had that number slightly overstated. So when we do something that is reflects the current 65 openings at the salaries we expect, the budget for next year will be a little over 2 million just for the deputies. And then we have a few other positions. Please also look at medical staff. We don't have a budget to compare to last year because it was, we had Southern Health Partners, and everything we did came out of routine medical down here. So for this year, we started splitting it as we got into the fiscal year. So we still have routine medical down here. And the reason it's going from 950 down to 600 is because we pick up the salaries and stick them in this budget here. So overall, in the current year, we have a budget for salaries of $2,493,000. Next year, we expect a little bit of a drop, and that's mostly because it goes back up to we were slightly over budgeted this year in this line item, but this does include the 2.3% COLA. Overtime is very good in the jail. We do not expend, relative to the size and budget of the jail, we do not expend a lot of overtime dollars in the jail. Anything else? Any questions about the salary portion of the jail?
I have questions.
Go ahead.
So in line 103, you've got 65. So that's 65 employees with 6 open.
Correct.
What's that principle?
Correct.
Those are the full-time, 65. Currently, 6 are open, and then we have 5 part-time employees as well.
Okay, so David, that includes you sent me a list yesterday. That includes the 46 deputy jailers and the 6 shift supervisors.
Yes.
All right, that gets me to 52. Oh, and the others.
Chief, captain, lieutenants,
Okay.
they all fall under that line item.
All right, basically everybody but you.
Everybody but me and the ones listed below that, the medical staff, secretaries, and maintenance program director, they are all split off.
All right, and so
Yes.
then a COLA 2%. What's that going to put your deputy jailer salary at?
The 2.3,
Yeah. So they're making
$12 an hour now. $12.27, $12.28.
okay.
Those open spots we have, they're generally almost always open. We don't have people applying that want to work here. Just quite frankly, nobody wants to do this for $12 an hour.
And then if you go all the way to the bottom in your budget, we always present it like this: 1 elected official, 77 full-time, 8 part-time.
I got you. All right, thank you. But so are the numbers, I mean, so is this the same staffing we had last year, correct?
Correct.
The only thing we added was, and we didn't really, is the medical staff.
Right. So we got about 55, 60% of the same number of inmates. Will we see a staffing savings? I mean, do we need to fill these open?
So the way we're presenting this is that we don't know what's going to happen to the population. If it's going to, we're preparing as though it is going to rebound back to its more usual numbers. You'll see the entire jail budget presented that way at this time, as though it's a continuation of the current fiscal year, post or pre-COVID.
But I'm assuming that if you can run a jail with this, if you can run a 600 inmate jail with this staffing, you can run a 400 inmate jail with fewer people.
That's not necessarily true. And the best example I can give you is if I ask you to watch a football field, it doesn't matter if there's 2 people on it or 1,000. It's still the same size football field. And that's what we're dealing with here, is I have to have a certain amount of people to cover the building regardless of how many people are in it. Unless I start shutting down sectors of the building, then I couldn't minimize staff.
I think another thing that we can consider also is that if we budget it as it is, and perhaps we can be pleasantly surprised after we get through the COVID and the numbers don't creep up. I did read that at least one of our judges believe that after the COVID virus, if we recover from that, whenever that is, that it would be back business as usual as far as setting bonds. So that would indicate that our population increase would go up substantially because this 89 present count of county prisoners is I would think almost completely related to our Bratton County judges' willingness to address these things and be more lenient with bonds where they could. Address those bonds to people who are not a danger, that sort of thing. And so that's what got us way down to that point. And then, of course, along with that, at the time the virus struck, we were sort of in the plans of meeting with the judges and see if we could come up with some sort of a plan to reduce our local population. I guess if there's anything good with the virus, that we got that result, along with some direction from the Supreme Court of Kentucky, asking or suggesting or requiring, whatever we're going to use, that the local judges look more closely at those bonds. So they have done an excellent job, I think, of reducing our population by addressing those bonds. Hopefully we can follow up on the tail end of this and maybe develop a plan that carry that on out.
Yeah.
If some of these bond practices stay in place and our local population remains low, once the state starts allowing inmates to be moved around, that would allow us space for more state inmates, which would be ideal to increase our state population and increase revenue.
You could take another 100 inmates right now today with your staffing, right?
Very easily, yes, sir.
And that, if I'm doing my math right, would add $1.1 million of income.
Correct.
So I agree with you, Judge Clymer. We got to keep the staffing the same in anticipation that the judiciary will be will return to its mindset of pre-pandemic, but somewhere in there maybe they'll see our conversation that, hey, we could have another $1 million if we didn't keep our bonds as high, pre-trial bonds so high.
And another thought that goes sort of parallel to this is back in Steve and I and Pam have discussed this last day or two a couple of times about we implemented some time ago the insurance tax. We do not have a feel for what that revenue will be. And so I think the theory needs to be that we, since we don't know what revenue that would produce, I would rather be budgeting based on that unknown, not to overly anticipate there being a lot of revenue from that and then come short. And then at the same time, not knowing how long the virus is going to affect us. And of course, the virus goes across the board on budgeting, not just in the jail. And so our revenue from other sources will be affected by the virus quite significantly. So our discussion has been across the board with the entire budget. If we were to budget similar to what we did last year, knowing that we're going to have some income from the insurance tax, but it may well be offset, even devastated by the effect of the virus, that if we budget as we did and we underestimate what we need, perhaps by the end of this year, we'll be pleasantly surprised. We came out of the virus not quite as bad as we thought. We have insurance tax revenues that we first see somewhere around September. That we that becomes a revenue source that is much larger than we anticipated, and so we have good news instead of bad, and then perhaps we can go back and address some of the things that we hoped we could do, particularly around salaries and particularly around jail and the sheriff's department. But at the sheriff's point, people not wanting to come to jail to work for $12 and $12.23 is not much either. Put up with what you have to put up with to be a deputy jailer and pay them $12 is one reason why we're continually losing and replacing deputy jailers.
Steve, is there any way that we can track the success rate of those local inmates who have been let out because of the virus to see if there's any recidivism? If we can show the judges that letting out 200 inmates or however many it's been, if there wasn't a big recidivism, maybe they'll continue to cooperate and have low bonds and maybe less harsh sentences. Is there any way to do that?
You're asking the wrong person. I don't know.
Yeah.
David, is there any way to do that? I mean, have you seen any come back in who were let out? I'm sure there's been some, but.
I'm sure there's some, but I have no way of tracking where they go or when they come back.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a misplaced issue, Mr. Bartleman, not completely, but the repeat offender issue is more applicable to that person who has gotten their final sentence and then committed another crime. The bigger problem has been the number of inmates that we have just simply kept there waiting on their final day or final sentence, which that shouldn't factor into that decision. That decision should be, are they likely to come back for court and are they a danger to society between then and their trial?
I mean, there have been some who have, they're waiting their final disposition. Normally the judge would leave them in there. The judge decided to let them out. Have they committed another crime before they come back for their final disposition? It's probably hard to tell that, so.
Yeah, and frankly, I think that happens all the time. And you know, and I guess you just got to figure out then maybe it does become a danger to society. But the reality is what often happens is that bond is set because somebody stole $1,500. We're going to set the bond for $1,500 in the hopes that we'll get that $1,500 and be able to make the victim whole. The problem with that is the county pays out the nose for that collection process, and we need to quit doing that and change the culture. I digress.
David, another question. What's the outlook on the state inmates? Well, do you think they'll try to reduce their inmate population, or after this is over with, will they be looking for bids?
They have already reduced them, and hearing from the state level, they've already let out all they're going to let out. They've done it in about 3 different levels, and the last set was let out last week. So I'm not expecting any more releases from the state level.
So do you think they'll be probably looking for beds then after this is over with? So we might be able to get more state inmates?
I would suspect, yes, sir.
Another question, David, is having your own medical staff, is that working well and better than when you contracted the medical services?
Yes, I think so. I feel we have better control over them, and this company that we're with is definitely much easier to communicate and more transparent than the last one. Having the medical staff answer directly to me is much easier than having to go through a third-party medical to get permission to get someone into court if we need it.
Hey, David.
Yes.
What is the routine medical, 950,000 down to 394, and then we budgeted 600,000 for next year? What is that?
that's where we split off of our nursing staff that went up to that other line item in salaries.
So 549 went where? It went up to 137.
130.
Yeah, all right.
Other questions, comments? I can tell you that, and, repeating myself, but I do believe that if we can budget, understanding that we have an unknown amount of revenue from that insurance tax coming, we have the huge unknown of what the bottom line is going to be on our negative impact from the virus. And I believe that I would set us up for a positive later in the year, or perhaps we'll have some revenue that can make some salary adjustments and perhaps do some other things that we otherwise would not be able to do. It's very frustrating, to say the least, that I felt like we were on the rebound. I felt like we as a fiscal court made some strong moves in doing the revenue enhancements that we did. Had the virus not come, we would be in a stronger position, replenishing our reserves that we've been living off of for many years, building that back up. So here we are again, but to cry about that, we just try to address it, and I think we're doing that. We're being fiscally responsible with all of this, and it'll be a Merry Christmas at the end of the year, and do some things when we unwrap that present. Anything else from anybody? Anything, David?
So I think we've covered it.
David, you're happy with this budget?
Happy as I can be considering the situation. Obviously, I would like to do better for our deputies, but if that's not possible, it's just not possible.
Well, I hope, David, that you would be able, in whatever fashion, or maybe you and I would talk, and I would be glad to send out that sentiment that we realize that the jail pay is insufficient. We're trying to find a way to address that while still being responsible. And we're hoping to get that done.
Steve Doolittle, I've got one question. I noticed the retirement expense is only increasing, I think, about 8%. Is that realistic to cover what the assessment's going to be next year?
Yes, that's an actual calculation. The state has indicated that they are, because of the COVID crisis, they're holding the rates at this current year. So we're not seeing the customary increase. Why it is going up is because of COLA, and it is also going up because the nurses are on our payroll now. So that accounts for that difference.
Okay. Just curious, because they were talking about 15-20% earlier, and I was curious as to why, whether that was accurate.
Pam did it. It's accurate.
Enough said. That's all you need to say.
All right, are we done?
So
Looks like we are. Thank you, everyone.
all right, thank you.
The
Are we
clerk
done?
is going to want a motion to.
Yeah. Adjourn.
What's our motion? We need a motion?
A second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Adjourn.